Hello, my name is Joe Risch, and I am the Reading Specialist with Training in Dyslexia at the Indiana Department of Education. This presentation will discuss Senate Enrolled Act 217. We will dig into the specific requirements of the law for school corporations and charter schools, along with the Department of Education's responsibilities. This law passed in the legislative session 2018. The department was required to hire a reading specialist trained in dyslexia by July of 2019. But I was brought on to plan and help schools prepare to meet the specifications of the law that goes into effect at the start of the 2019-2020 school year. The law was passed because our elected officials saw a need in Indiana schools to identify, as early as possible, our readers who show risk factors for dyslexia, and then provide them with systematic, sequential, and multisensory instruction to meet their needs. This law applies to all public and charter schools. Private schools may choose to comply with some or all of the law, but they are not required to do so. We are encouraging private schools to have conversations with their local educational agency to show how and if they can work together as they implement the law. It is important to note that the law does not alter any part of Article 7 or IDEA. Senate Enrolled Act 217 is not a special education law, but is intended to identify general education students who have risk factors for dyslexia. Please note that the department's role is to facilitate the implementation of this law and regulations as they are written. There are 6 main areas from Senate Enrolled Act 217 that we will discuss during this presentation. They are the universal screener, the authorized reading specialist trained in dyslexia, instructional approaches, Senate Enrolled Act 217 as it relates to Article 7 and IDEA, notifications and services, and reporting. In 2015, the Indiana General Assembly passed House Enrolled Act 1108. This put in place an official definition for dyslexia. This is the definition the department is using when referring to dyslexia. It is based on the definition from the International Dyslexia Association. House Enrolled Act 1108 defines dyslexia as a specific learning disability that is neurological in origin and characterized by difficulties with accurate or fluent word recognition and poor spelling and decoding abilities. This typically results from a deficit in phonological components of language that is often unexpected in relation to other cognitive abilities and the provision of effective classroom instruction. This may include problems in reading comprehension and reduced reading experience that can impede the growth of vocabulary and background knowledge and may require the provision of special education services after an eligible determination is made in accordance with Article 7. The Indiana Department of Education has 4 big responsibilities as it relates to SEA 217. The department is responsible for creating a list of approved universal screeners, Level 1 and Level 2 screeners. The department is responsible for creating a list of approved dyslexia training programs. The department is responsible for creating and disseminating awareness and professional development information to all educators. In addition to this professional development and awareness, the department is creating a resource guide as required in SEA 217. This resource guide will be a compendium of all resources as it relates to the law. To further assist schools, the department will release information to schools help schools' decision on choosing a dyslexia intervention. The screeners gather information on the 6 subset areas. They are phonological awareness, which assesses one's ability to identify the changes, the different small segments of spoken sounds, while phonemic awareness is the knowledge of sounds, or phonemes, in our spoken language and one's ability to change the sounds in a word. Alphabet knowledge is one's ability to name, distinguish shapes, write, and identify the sounds of the alphabet. Sound symbol recognition is also known as phonics. It is the process of learning that letters are linked to sounds, phonemes, to form letter-sound correspondence and spelling patterns. Decoding skills are used in reading. It's one's ability to apply knowledge of letter-sound relationships and letter-sound patterns to correctly pronounce written words. In other words, translating written words into sounds and meaning of spoken words. Rapid naming is one's ability to quickly name aloud familiar items. This skill requires executive function skills and rapid recall skills. This has been identified as a key component to a dyslexia screening battery. Encoding skills is for spelling. This looks at one's ability to translate their knowledge of letters and sounds into written words. Students in kindergarten, first, and second grade will be screened annually in all 6 subset areas. This includes students that transfer schools and have not been screened previously during that school year at a different school. Students will be screened each year regardless of the previous year's performance on the screener. There is no specific window, so schools may use their professional judgment and knowledge of what is developmentally appropriate to decide when they will screen students in each grade. It is not required that all students in grade 3 through 12 be screened. If a teacher observes a student who has a deficit in one of the 6 subset areas, the teacher may refer the student to be given the universal screener to gather further information on the student. The department has issued draft guidance documents on how to approach the universal screener for specific special education populations and students that are English language learners. These documents are located on the Dyslexia website under the Resources page. Universal screeners. These must be completed with all students. See guidance documents for special education and our ELL students. But schools must use an approved screener. There is no one approved universal screener that covers all 6 subsets. We have created a crosswalk for schools to plan which screeners they will use to cover each of the different subsets. The department also created a document that shows screeners that cover more than one area and a breakdown of each screener in its respective subsection. The department was able to secure the use of a free screener for rapid naming from the Arkansas Department of Education. The screener is designed to be brief and give a snapshot of the student's present level of performance. Anyone who is trained on the screener protocol may give the universal screener. Level 1 screeners are only given to those students that are at risk and at some risk based on results from the universal screener will receive the Level 1 screening process. The definition of at risk and at some risk can be found on slide 10. The Level 1 dyslexia screening means a process, as determined by the school corporation or charter school, for gathering additional information to determine if characteristics of dyslexia are present. This step is to gather more information on the student and help to discriminate the areas that need intervention and start the process of gathering more data. This is done as an informal diagnostic screener. Anyone who is trained in this screener protocol may give the Level 1 screener. Level 2 dyslexia screeners may be given to students when school staff need to gain more information and learn about a student's strengths and weaknesses and the different subset areas. This battery of screeners is norm-referenced and is considered both formal and diagnostic. This data can also be used as a baseline for intervention, which will show student growth. This is an overview of the dyslexia screener flowchart. We will work through each step of this process. The following flowchart was created to give schools a one-pager to follow the screener process. It has been cut and enlarged to help focus on each step. A full-size version of this document is available on the Indiana Department of Education's Dyslexia website on the screener page as a downloadable document. First, all school corporations or charter schools will have an employee who is the authorized reading specialist trained in dyslexia. This employee must successfully complete or be enrolled in an IDOE-approved training program. More information on this will be shared later in the presentation. Again, please note that Senate Enrolled Act 217 does not alter Article 7 or IDEA. So at any time, a parent or teacher can request an educational evaluation of the student. The Universal Screener. Every student in kindergarten, first, and second grade will receive the Universal Screener in all 6 subsets: phonemic phonological awareness, alphabet knowledge, sound symbol relationship, decoding, rapid naming, and encoding annually. Students are screened annually regardless of their previous year's performance. Because this is a universal screener given to all students, schools are not required to get permission from parents to give this screener. Schools are not required to administer the universal screener to students who are already receiving a dyslexia intervention or if parents object to the universal screener. Please refer to the draft guidance document on the department's dyslexia website about giving the universal screener to special education and English language learners. If a student passes the universal screener, continue providing high-level evidence-based practices for learning. If a student does not pass the universal screener, that means that if a student falls below benchmark on the universal screener, they will be considered at risk or at some risk. Schools have local control to decide what is considered at risk and at some risk. This will vary based on the benchmarks set by the test makers and will vary based on which approved screeners schools choose. Schools may choose to use a triangulation of all 6 subsets, or if a student scores below the cut score on a number of subsets. We encourage schools to consider the screener result data in addition to existing data and students' current classroom performance when planning the appropriate next steps. After the students are found to be at risk or at some risk for dyslexia, schools will notify parents of the student's universal screener results, information on dyslexia, and gain parent permission to move forward. These notifications include: the school shall tell the parents the underperforming subset areas and request parent consent to give the Level 1 screener to gather information on the area or areas of deficit. This information will be used to provide appropriate intervention. This requires parent permission. Schools shall obtain parent permission to conduct the Level 1 screening process. The department recommends that schools get written parent permission to move forward. School districts can create their own consent form to meet the needs of their local district. In addition to the screening results, the school will provide information to parents on the characteristics of dyslexia, appropriate interventions, and classroom accommodations. This information will be available in the department's resource guide. A school will tell parents that they may elect to have the student receive an educational evaluation by the school. It is important for the school to explain the difference between a full educational evaluation and the need for a Level 1 screener. If parents do not consent to additional screening, then schools will use the information that they have from the universal screener to inform the necessary intervention. It is important for schools to explain the process to parents and that the screener does not automatically lead to special education. Also note that after the universal screener, schools may go directly to a Level 2 screener based on the individual needs of the student. This is because the Level 2 screener provides data on a student's strengths and weaknesses and may be beneficial in determining special education eligibility. Students found to be at risk or at some risk via the universal screener will receive the Level 1 screener. The Level 1 dyslexia screener is a process which includes a screener and the gathering of additional information to determine if the characteristics of dyslexia are present. What additional information is gathered is determined by the school corporation or charter school. Examples of helpful information may include progress monitoring data, work samples, formative literacy assessment data, and additional age and developmentally appropriate dyslexia screening tools for the 6 subset areas. The determination of existing characteristics of dyslexia should be based on multiple sources of data. Anyone who has knowledge of the proper testing protocol may give the Level 1 screener. Schools may conduct a Level 2 screener. However, schools are not required to give every student who received a Level 1 screener a Level 2 screener. The Level 2 dyslexia screener provides additional information to identify a pattern of strengths and weaknesses, documenting the characteristics of dyslexia. Schools may conduct a Level 2 screener. However, schools are not required to give every student who received a Level 1 screener a Level 2 screener. The Level 2 dyslexia screener provides additional information for identifying a pattern of strengths and weaknesses, documenting the characteristics of dyslexia. Additional information on the Level 1 and Level 2 screeners can be found in the revised IDOE-approved Level 1 and Level 2 screeners document on the Dyslexia website. Anyone who has knowledge of the screener protocol may give the Level 2 screener, but many of these screeners may require an advanced degree held by a psychologist or a speech-language pathologist. It is imperative that schools continue to update parents on students' progress, including after a Level 1 or Level 2 screener. After you have completed the screening process and you are ready to start the response to intervention process to meet the student's needs, SEA 217 recommends that you use an intervention that is explicit, provides direct instruction that is systematic, sequential, and cumulative. The program will follow a logical path of presenting alphabetic principles and targeting specific needs of the student without presuming prior skill or knowledge. Instruction is individualized to meet the specific needs of the student in a setting that maximizes student engagement. Instruction is meaning-based and has purposeful reading and writing with emphasis on comprehension and composition. Instruction incorporates the simultaneous use of 2 or more sensory pathways during teachers' presentation and students' practices, and may use other instructional approaches as needed. When planning the intervention, it is important to consider the length, frequency, and intensity of the sessions, scope of study areas of need, and group size. This will help aid in deciding which tier of the RTI intervention to place the student in. We will talk through the intervention more in upcoming slides. There are 2 levels of professional development and awareness available to educators. 1. An employee in a school corporation or charter school will complete training to become an authorized reading specialist trained in dyslexia. And all teachers will receive a level of professional awareness so that they have a basic understanding of dyslexia. Each school corporation is required to have at least one employee who has successfully completed an IDOE-approved dyslexia training program. The authorized reading specialist trained in dyslexia must have completed or be in the process of completing the training during the 2019-2020 school year. This training program will give the person information on the 6 subset areas screened, provide training to become fluent in the RTI process, and have been trained in the identification, characteristics, and interventions of dyslexia. This person is not required to have an advanced degree to fill this role. This person may be a current employee. It is the choice of the school corporation or charter school who they choose to receive the training. Schools may look to have a district or classroom educator complete this training. If schools find they do not have an employee that meets their criteria for this position, they may hire a new employee. Again, it is the choice of the school corporation or charter school. Because educators have sought out this type of training prior to this legislation, we want to honor their training and knowledge. So, if a person successfully completed an IDOE-approved training program between June of 2010 and November of 2018, that training will count towards being an authorized reading specialist trained in dyslexia. The school corporation or charter school is only required to have one authorized reading specialist trained in dyslexia, regardless of the size of the corporation or charter school. If the school corporation or charter school is part of a co-op model, they may enter into an agreement to share the services of an authorized reading specialist trained in dyslexia throughout the co-op. Schools may partner with a service provider that is from the IDOE-approved list of dyslexia training programs to work as an authorized reading specialist trained in dyslexia in their school corporation, charter school, or co-op. This role may be a person's only job responsibility, or it may be an additional role they take on. What does this job look like? This is a decision for the school corporation or charter school. As a general guide, the department sees the authorized reading specialist trained in dyslexia as a person who may work with all students in all grades. More narrowly, this person will lead dyslexia work within their corporation or charter school. This person may also work with teachers as a resource to provide information on dyslexia and provide guidance on interventions, identification, and screening of students. Ultimately, it is up to the discretion of the school corporation or charter school as to how this person will serve their corporation or charter school. A draft guidance document with more detailed information on this position is available on the Department Dyslexia website. The IDOE worked to ensure training programs would include quality instruction for educators by experts in dyslexia with experience and knowledge in identification, intervention, and best practices. Proposals were gathered through a request for information. The proposals were scored using a rubric. The rubric scored the proposal on trainers' qualifications. How much training and expertise did the trainers have? Trainers' knowledge on basic identification of characteristics of dyslexia. The use of evidence-based instruction and interventions. How were these used to teach educators? All 6 subset areas of reading/dyslexia instruction were included in their training. Time allotted to practice and understand the RTI process. Adult education practices used in the training. Cost. and the total number of hours for the training and practicum. The waiver portion of the law was designed for schools struggling to find an employee who has successfully met the requirements of an authorized reading specialist trained in dyslexia by the beginning of the school year, or an authorized reading specialist trained in dyslexia leaves a school corporation or charter school and a qualified replacement cannot be found immediately. We are encouraging schools to look at the waiver as a last resort, and schools should work with training programs to have an employee trained or in training if and when a vacancy arises. The professional awareness training will be offered to all educators in the state of Indiana. It will provide a common understanding of dyslexia and will cover the following areas: the characteristics of dyslexia, dyslexia interventions, and dyslexia accommodations. We will offer this professional development online and in person around the state. Please check the dyslexia website and Dr. McCormick's Friday emails in the coming months for additional information on location and times of these trainings. The department is creating a resource guide. It will be a collection of all the information released throughout the year and include new information for a complete guide to all things that relate to SEA 217. This resource guide will include 4 one-page documents that share information on the characteristics of dyslexia, different intervention approaches, and accommodations. The intervention that schools use is a local control decision. The Indiana Department of Education will not be releasing a list of approved interventions. While there is no specific intervention program schools must use, SEA 217 does have recommended instructional approaches the intervention may contain. These include: it is explicit. It provides direct instruction that is systematic, sequential, and cumulative. Follow a logical path of presenting alphabetic principles. Target specific needs of the student without presuming prior skills or knowledge. Instruction is individualized to meet the specific needs of the student. Complete in a setting that maximizes student engagement. Recommended approaches for dyslexia also include instruction that is meaning-based. Instruction has purposeful reading and writing with emphasis on comprehension and composition. Instruction incorporates the simultaneous use of 2 or more sensory pathways during teachers' presentation and student practices, and other instructional approaches as needed. When deciding on the intervention you may use, consider the following aspects. Does the intervention work within the RTI model of tiered instruction for targeted and individualized instruction of students? Does the intervention use as many of the recommended instructional approaches as possible? What is the source of the instructional materials? Additional questions to consider are: what materials is covered? How will progress be tracked? Who will lead the intervention? Does the master schedule have time available for the intervention through RTI? Is additional training needed? In a school's reading plan, the following information must be reported annually to the department: the number of students who were administered an initial dyslexia screening during the school year, the number of students determined to be at risk and at some risk for dyslexia. Again, this is reported annually in the school's reading plan by the administrators. Every school corporation or charter school website must have a web page that contains the following information: the dyslexia intervention program used during the previous school year, the number of students who received dyslexia intervention during the previous school year, the total number of students identified with dyslexia during the previous school year. The numbers are reported before July 15th, 2019, and then prior to July 15 of each year after that. Please note that you are reporting whatever data your school corporation or charter school has collected in these areas on your school corporation or charter school website before July 15, 2019. As previously stated, SEA 217 is not a special education law. Dyslexia will not be a new special education eligibility category. The definition of dyslexia shared earlier states that dyslexia is a specific learning disability. Additionally, schools are not diagnosing dyslexia. Schools will discuss the characteristics that are definitive of the disorder. The requirements under the dyslexia law are separate from the Article 7 requirements. SEA 217 is not a special education law, although either the parent or the school may make a referral for evaluation under Article 7 at any time, even before completing a Level 1 and Level 2 screener. The universal screener, because it is administered to all students in all applicable grades, can be administered to all students without requiring written parent consent. Level 1 and Level 2 screeners, however, are not administered to all students. Because of that, written parental consent is required before administering these additional tests. This is consistent with the requirements of Article 7. Under the dyslexia legislation, intervention and instructional services are provided to the student as needed, regardless of whether the parent provides consent for further screening. The school may base this on information or data it has from all data points, including the universal screener. The school should continue to have conversation with the parents about the student's progress and potentially the need for further screenings. This does not negate the school's child find obligations under the Individuals with Disabilities Act and Article 7. If the school suspects the student may have a disability under Article 7, it should make the referral for evaluation and follow the procedures under Article 7. Parents may opt out of Level 1 and Level 2 screeners, but it is important for schools to have a conversation with parents about what it means to get more information about the student's present level of performance. It is not a gateway to special education services, and it may not even track to special education services. It should be explained that the Level 1 screener will identify with more specificity where the student is struggling and how the school will plan its intervention. This new law does not negate a school's child find obligations under IDEA and Article 7. If the school suspects the student may have a disability under Article 7, it should make the referral for evaluation and follow the procedures under Article 7. During the data collection process, schools need to have an ongoing conversation with parents about their students' progress and need for additional screeners. It is important to note that the dyslexia screening under the law cannot be used to delay or deny evaluation under Article 7. This process is not a substitute nor a required prerequisite before evaluation under Article 7 and cannot be used to delay or deny a parent's request for evaluation. Similarly, if a school suspects a disability under Article 7, it should not delay its child find responsibilities and should move forward with a referral immediately. Any delay could result in a finding of denial of a free and appropriate public education. School corporations and charter schools will use the RTI process for general education students that are considered at risk or at some risk for characteristics of dyslexia. If during the RTI process, schools do not see a student making adequate academic gains with intense Tier 3 intervention, progress monitoring data shows no growth, and a clear pattern of strengths and weaknesses are present for characteristics of dyslexia, then schools should make a referral and request parental consent to conduct an educational evaluation. When administering the universal screener to students who receive special education services, it is important to consider if the screener will deliver any new information or data that will inform instruction beyond the student's special education category. A possible scenario is when a family comes to the school with an outside diagnosis of dyslexia from a doctor or psychologist. Remember, we are not diagnosing it, but discussing the characteristics that are definitive of dyslexia. This means that the term dyslexia may be used and referenced within the IEP. If the student is going to be found to qualify for special education, the data should show a lack of appropriate progress given research-based interventions. The public agency representative may determine that there is evidence to support completing a comprehensive educational evaluation. This evaluation should include components that address the distinct skill deficits associated with dyslexia. This includes phonological and phonemic awareness, alphabet knowledge, phonics, decoding, rapid naming, and encoding. Again, the term dyslexia may be referenced in a report or IEP if the assessment data indicates the presence of the specific skill deficits that are definitive of the disorder. Students with dyslexia may be found eligible for special education and related services under the category of specific learning disability if the student's case conference committee determines the disability or impairment adversely affects the student's educational performance and therefore needs special education and related services. So, an IEP could state, a doctor's note states that the student has dyslexia. The school data indicates the presence of a specific learning disability that is definitive of the disorder. The student has deficits in, and then share which of the 6 subset areas the student has deficits in. This information will help inform your IEP goals. Please keep sending your questions to us. It helps inform the work we are doing at the department and ensures that we are considering all sides and aspects of the law. How might schools pay for these screenings and interventions? The Early Intervention Grant may be used to fund dyslexia screeners, professional development, and interventions. A second allocation will be out this spring. Please check the department's website for more information. It is not possible to use Title II, Title III, or Title IV funds as a funding stream for these activities. Title I may be a possibility. Please discuss this with your Title I grant specialist and request formal approval through your Title I budget. Thank you for your time. I look forward to working with you in the future. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me as you implement plans for this new law. Thank you.